The MCU needs no introduction. It's a behemoth of a franchise with a mass global appeal that dominated pop culture, the box office, and was generally enjoyed by everyone and their grandmother. But what seemed like an impossibility for the MCU to fail became a reality a lot sooner than we thought. With an oversaturation of projects on Disney Plus and the decline in quality movies from the MCU, the cracks started to show and the fandom started running thinner by the project. Today I want to look at a few projects that led to the MCU's downfall.
Burn this place to the ground.
I think every Disney Plus show, besides WandaVision and Loki, has probably contributed heavily to the decline of the MCU. Making these shows an essential watch was already a bad move by the studio, but then having said market oversaturated with multiple shows a year, and not even good ones, made these shows a chore to watch and started to phase out a lot of the casual fans of the MCU. WandaVision and its premiere and throughout its airtime managed to keep strong fan engagement, but by the time we got to shows like Echo, the general audience tapped out. Hell, even I tapped out after Moon Knight. The shows failed to make an impact both with fans and general audiences, and the studio didn't even see strong numbers for these shows according to Nielsen. You could also mention how the MCU is still learning how to make episodic TV instead of making a film and then slicing it into 6 parts. Needless to say, pivoting to streaming may have brought small-term success to the studio, but in the end, it tarnished the MCU's reputation both in terms of quality and fan engagement. WandaVision and Loki, however, fucking slap.
After all this time, now you come to visit me, brother. Why? To mock. I need your help.
Thor: The Dark World is very obviously the first time that not every movie Marvel pumped out after the Avengers would be good. With a production budget of $170 million, the sequel grossed $644 million worldwide, which is not bad considering the rule of thumb in Hollywood is to make 2.5 to 3 times your budget to break even. However, this was the first time Marvel failed to overperform after the Avengers, not to mention the critics and audience scores were also lower than usual. Pair this up with undoubtedly the most forgettable, snooze-fest-inducing movie and you get Thor: The Dark World.
I'm gonna show you something beautiful. Everyone screaming for mercy.
Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now, Avengers: Age of Ultron has its supporters for sure, however, you cannot deny that the sheer amount of setups made audiences question the validity of a shared universe. Exactly how long did they have to wait to see all these future setups in movies pay off, and was it worth sacrificing the quality of the film for it? Me personally, I think Age of Ultron was an absolute misfire for the franchise. Ultron, who was completely terrifying in the trailers, is a fucking buffoon in the film.
Nobody has to break anything.
Clearly, you've never made an omelet.
You beat me by 1 second.
Captain America. God's righteous man, pretending you could live without a war. I can't physically throw up in my mouth.
There are a few decent scenes and arcs in the film, like the Hawkeye arc or the party scene, but this movie had to set up Civil War, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Thor Ragnarok, and a standalone Black Widow film. This was when setup started taking priority over storytelling.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished. We should tell him the truth.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, after the magnum opus that was No Way Home, Marvel doubled down on the multiverse and started promising huge cameos specifically for this one. I mean, the title is literally called In the Multiverse of Madness. Then we find out that writer Michael Waldron hadn't even seen WandaVision while writing the script, which led to a jarring out-of-character turn for Wanda.
It's a similar arc in Multiverse of Madness that it is in WandaVision. There could be parallel stories being told there of dealing with grief and loss. Well, I proposed that to the writers who wrote Multiverse of Madness. I said, do you know what we're doing in WandaVision? Have you seen it? And no, they had not seen it because it wasn't finished yet.
The movie also exposed the cracks in Marvel's once tight quality control, which is insane considering it was the entire backbone of the franchise success. While I respect the attempt to try something different, continuity matters. This also marked the start of the Rick and Morty era at Marvel, which has been more of a miss than a hit.
I made mistakes. And a lot of enemies.
Black Widow. Not much to say about this one. This one came out a little bit late, maybe like a decade too late. This movie kept up with the tradition of terrible MCU villains and absolutely wasting its villain. It was also here where we started to see the decline of CG in these films. And It's no fault of the CG or VFX artists who I have major respect for, but we were to learn about the scandals between Marvel and its monopoly and abuse towards VFX companies. It was also here where we started to see how disconnected the MCU really had become after Endgame.
Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos? Or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history?
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
By who?
The first Rotten Tomato for Marvel. I actually remember when the first reviews for this film came out, I was so baffled at the idea that a Marvel movie could have a Rotten Tomato next to it. I saw this one on Disney Plus due to the pandemic, but this one was the one that really started turning the fan base against each other. People either loved it or hated it, and it was one of the first MCU's misfires at the box office post Endgame. To be fair, the pandemic definitely played a part in the slow return at the box office, only grossing $402 million worldwide, but I truly think the pandemic also accelerated the speed at which the general fan base started waiting for these movies to hit streaming. It also didn't help that it was totally different from the rest of the MCU, and there has been zero follow-up since it came out. The Celestial cliffhanger, ignore. These characters barely mentioned again.
Okay, so our powers are entangled.
I can manipulate light energy.
And you,
I could totally show you.
The Marvels. The Marvels bombed at the box office, and I mean hard. This one was the real first bomb for the MCU post Endgame, grossing only $84 million domestically throughout its entire run and $206 million worldwide. Marvel bet a huge on this movie, or maybe reshoots went over budget, but unfortunately, whatever way it went, it did not pay off. This was also the first time we saw characters from Disney Plus jump onto the big screen, and it was a clear indication that the general audience just wasn't watching these shows as they failed to show up for Kamala Khan, or at least bring fans of the show to the theater. It also doesn't help that the movie isn't very good, which is a shame considering Iman Vellani is so fucking good as Miss Marvel, and her show has some really good episodes and scenes. But this just wasn't the move. Sorry guys. Iman Vellani, you were great though.
Kids, get your popcorn now. Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson. He was no ordinary man. He was a god.
Thor Love and Thunder. Now, I've tried to stay positive throughout the entire video, but goddamn, this movie is absolute goddamn cheeks. When I went to go see it opening weekend, my theater was absolutely quiet. Crickets. No one was laughing, not trying to be hyperbolic here. Nothing worked in the film. The comedy, the story, the improv, the character assassination for Thor, how they wasted Russell Crowe as Zeus and Christian Bale's Gore. Taika Waititi has been able to recover from this atrocity, and rightfully so. My disdain for the film has just gone up over the years, but I know a lot of people that quit the MCU after the film, and I mean heck, even Chris Hemsworth said they took it way too far. Surprisingly, it wasn't a box office flop, but this really felt like a proper parody of the MCU.
You're an interesting man, Scott Lang. You're an Avenger. You have a daughter. But you've lost a lot of time, like me.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The only reason why the second Ant-Man movie isn't here is because the second one has Louise, and I really fucked with Louise.
Where is Scott Lang?
Well, see, that's complicated. Because when I first met Scotty, he was in a bad place. And I'm not talking about Cell Block D. His wife had just filed for divorce. And I was like, damn, homie, she dumped you when you're on lockup? And he was like, yeah, I know, I thought I was gonna be with her forever. But now I'm all alone. And I was like, damn, homie, you know what? You gotta chin up, because you'll find a new partner. But you know what? I'm Louise.
Introducing the next big villain, Kang, in an Ant-Man movie, only to have him defeated was a baffling choice. They dropped the ball hard with this one. Similar to my Thor experience, this one was absolute crickets in the room. You could hear more signs and frustrations than the film itself. This was marketed as the next big chapter after Endgame, and it was just so forgettable. The weak CGI paired with a lack of stakes, a seriously unfunny script from the Rick and Morty guys, just made this movie so hard to watch. This movie made everyone tap out. Mostly everyone I knew who stayed after Love and Thunder left the MCU after this film, and honestly, who can blame them? The MCU's downfall wasn't caused by one movie, but a pattern of mistakes. Rushed projects, weak storytelling, over-reliance on VFX, and an oversaturated release schedule all played a part. Can Marvel recover and bounce back? I think so, or at least I hope it does. I grew up with these films. They've been a huge part of my childhood. I really hope they come back. Captain America 4 has me worried, but I'm decently excited for Thunderbolts, and I'm praying Fantastic Four will be a success. I need that one to work out, please.